The rain fell hard on the streets of Seoul as Park Joon-ho ran toward Nightfall Academy with his bag over his head. His shoes were already soaked, and his uniform was sticking to his skin. He had worked the night shift at the convenience store again and had barely slept. 3 hours before his alarm screamed at him to wake up, he was late. He was always late these days. When he finally reached the classroom door, he stopped to catch his breath. Through the small window, he could see Professor Kim already writing on the board. Every student sat in perfect rows with their expensive tablets and designer bags. Joon-ho looked down at his worn backpack held together by tape and sighed. He pushed open the door. The room went quiet. Every head turned to look at him. Some students smirked, while others rolled their eyes. A vampire girl in the front row covered her nose dramatically, as if his presence offended her. "Mr. Park," Professor Kim said, without turning around. "How kind of you to join us. Take your seat." Joon-ho bowed quickly and walked to the back of the room. His seat was in the corner where no one wanted to sit. It was next to the window that did not close properly and let cold air in during winter. But Joon-ho did not complain, because complaining never changed anything as he walked down the aisle. Someone stuck their foot out. Joon-ho tripped and his bag flew from his hands. His books and papers scattered across the floor. Laughter erupted around him. "Watch where you walk." Charity case. A voice said. Joon-ho looked up to see Kang Seo-jun leaning back in his chair with a cruel smile on his perfect face. Seo-jun was everything Joon-ho was not. He was handsome and wealthy and powerful. His family was one of the oldest vampire clans in Korea, and everyone at Nightfall Academy treated him like royalty. "Sorry," Joon-ho mumbled as he gathered his things from the floor. "You should be sorry for existing," Seo-jun said quietly so only Joon-ho could hear. "Humans like you do not belong here." Joon-ho said nothing. He just picked up his books and walked to his seat. He had learned long ago that fighting back only made things worse. At Nightfall Academy, there was a clear hierarchy that everyone understood. Vampires sat at the very top because they were the strongest and lived the longest. Below them were other supernatural beings like werewolves and witches. Then came the wealthy human students whose families paid enormous fees. And at the very bottom were the scholarship students like Joon-ho, who was only here because he had scored perfectly on the entrance exam. The academy had offered him a full scholarship as a way to show they welcomed all talented students. But the truth was different. They tolerated him, but they did not accept him. The class continued and Joon-ho tried to focus on the lecture. But his eyes kept closing because he was so tired. His body ached from standing for 8 hours behind the convenience store counter. His stomach growled because he had skipped breakfast to save money when class ended. Students rushed out to meet their friends and go to lunch. Joon-ho packed his bag slowly and waited for the room to empty. It was easier that way. "You look terrible," a voice said beside him. Joon-ho looked up to see Choi Minji standing there with her arms crossed. She was another human scholarship student and his only friend at the academy. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore the same faded uniform she had worn for 3 years. "Thanks," Joon-ho said with a weak smile. "I mean it," Minji said as they walked into the hallway. "You need to sleep more. You cannot keep working night shifts and attending classes." "I need the money," Joon-ho replied. "My mother's medicine is expensive." Minji's expression softened. She knew about his situation. His father had died when Joon-ho was young, and his mother was sick. Everything Joon-ho earned went to her medical bills and their small apartment's rent. There was nothing left for himself. They entered the cafeteria, and immediately Joon-ho felt eyes on him. The supernatural students could hear his heartbeat and smell his human scent. To them, he was prey, walking among predators. They did not attack him because the academy had strict rules. But that did not stop them from making his life miserable in other ways. Joon-ho bought the cheapest meal available, which was just rice and kimchi. He and Minji found a table in the corner far from everyone else. I heard Seo Jun is planning something, Minji whispered. His friends were talking about teaching some human a lesson. I think they mean you. They always mean me, Junho said, before Minji could respond. A shadow fell over their table. Junho looked up to see Seo Jun standing there with 3 of his vampire friends. They were all smiling in a way that made Junho's stomach turn. Well, Seo Jun said loudly so the whole cafeteria could hear. Look at the Academy's charity case eating his sad little meal. Tell me, Junho, does poverty taste good? Some students laughed. Others looked away, pretending not to see. Leave him alone, Minji said. Firmly. Seo Jun glanced at her with amusement. Another charity case defending her kind. How sweet. He turned back to Junho and knocked his tray off the table. Rice and kimchi splattered across the floor. Oops. My hand slipped. Junho stared at his ruined meal. That was all he could afford to eat today. His hands trembled, but not from fear. It was from the effort of holding back his anger. What is wrong? Sajun taunted. Are you going to cry? Go ahead. Show everyone what a pathetic human you are. Junho stood up slowly. For a moment, something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Jun actually stepped back, surprised by the sudden change, but then Junho simply walked away. He left the cafeteria without a word while laughter followed him out that night. Junho worked his shift at the convenience store as usual. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and the smell of instant noodles filled the air. He stood behind the counter watching the clock tick slowly toward midnight. Around 2 in the morning, a crash came from the alley outside. Junho grabbed a flashlight from under the counter and walked to the back door. He should have called the police. He should have stayed inside where it was safe, but something pulled him forward. He opened the door and shined the light into the dark alley. There among the garbage bags and broken boxes lay a girl. She was young, maybe his age, with long black hair spread around her like a dark halo. Her clothes were torn and stained with blood. Her skin was so pale it almost glowed in the dim light. Junho knelt beside her and checked her pulse. It was weak and slow. When he gently turned her face toward him, his breath caught in his throat. She was beautiful. But that was not what shocked him. It was her fangs. 2 sharp white fangs visible between her parted lips. She was a vampire. Every instinct told him to run, to call for help, and let someone else deal with this. Vampires were dangerous, especially wounded ones. They could lose control and attack, but she looked so helpless lying there. So alone against all common sense, Junho made his decision. He lifted her carefully in his arms and carried her inside the store. Whatever happened next, he could not just leave her to die in that dirty alley. He did not know it yet, but this moment would change everything. Junho laid the unconscious girl on the small couch in the back room of the convenience store. His heart was pounding so hard, he could hear it in his ears. He had just brought a vampire into his workplace, and he had no idea what to do next. He grabbed a first aid kit from the shelf and knelt beside her. Her wounds were already healing slowly, which confirmed what he already knew. No human could heal like that. He cleaned the blood from her face with a wet cloth and noticed how young she looked. She could not be much older than him. For a long moment, nothing happened. The girl lay still with her chest barely rising and falling. Junho wondered if he should call someone, but who would he call? The police would ask questions he could not answer. The academy would expel him for getting involved with an unknown vampire. Then, her eyes snapped open. Junho jumped back so fast he knocked over a stack of boxes. The girl sat up with inhuman speed, and her eyes glowed bright red in the dim room. She bared her fangs and hissed like a wild animal cornered by a hunter. "Stay back," she growled. Her voice was weak but dangerous. "I am not going to hurt you," Junho said with his hands raised. "I found you in the alley. You were injured, so I brought you inside." The red glow in her eyes flickered. She looked around the small room, taking in the shelves of supplies and the flickering light above. Her confusion was clear on her face. "Where am I?" she demanded. "A convenience store," Junho answered. In the Gangnam district, you collapsed outside, and I did not know what else to do. The girl stared at him for a long time. Her eyes slowly faded from red back to a deep brown color. She touched her side where her wound had been and found it nearly healed. Then she looked at Junho again with something like wonder in her expression. You helped me, she said slowly as if she could not believe it. You are human. I can hear your heartbeat. I can smell your blood. Yet you brought me inside and treated my wounds. Was I supposed to leave you there? Junho asked. Most humans would have, she replied. Most humans run from my kind. They fear us and hate us. And they are smart to do so. She paused and her eyes dropped to the floor. Especially when we are hungry. Junho understood what she meant. Vampires needed blood to survive, and this girl had clearly lost a lot of her own. She was starving, and he was standing right in front of her with blood pumping through his veins. He should have been terrified, but he was not. What happened to you? He asked. Instead, the girl was silent for a moment. Then she spoke in a quiet voice. I was attacked. There are those who want my family destroyed. They found me when I was alone, and they tried to kill me. I escaped, but I got lost, and then I collapsed. She looked at him again. My guards must be searching for me. I need to contact them. I can help you, Junho offered. Why? She asked sharply. Why would you help a vampire? What do you want from me? The question surprised him. He thought about it and then shrugged. I do not want anything. You needed help, so I helped. That is all. Something changed in the girl's face. The suspicion melted away and was replaced by something softer. She studied him like he was a puzzle she could not solve. What is your name? She asked. Park Junho. I am Yoon Suo, she said. Then she closed her eyes and swayed slightly. Her healing had taken a lot of energy, and she was clearly weak. Junho moved forward instinctively, but stopped himself. You need blood. Do you have some way to get it? Suo shook her head slowly. Not until my guards find me. They carry supplies for situations like this. She opened her eyes and looked at him. I will not take from you. I refuse to feed on someone who saved my life. What if I offer? Junho heard himself say. The word shocked both of them. Suo's eyes widened, and Junho could not believe what had come out of his mouth, but he did not take it back. She was suffering, and he could help. You do not know what you are offering, Suo whispered. A vampire's bite is intimate. It creates a connection. And if I lose control, I could hurt you or worse. Will you lose control? Junho asked. Suo hesitated. Then she shook her head. No, I have been trained since childhood. I know my limits. Then I am offering, Junho said, and he rolled up his sleeve. Just take what you need, nothing more. Suo looked at his wrist and then at his face. Her brown eyes searched his for any sign of fear or regret. She found none. Slowly she reached out and took his hand in hers. Her skin was cold, but her touch was gentle. Thank you, she said softly. I will never forget this. She brought his wrist to her lips and bit down. Junho felt a sharp pain followed by a strange warmth spreading through his body. It was not unpleasant, just different. Suo drank carefully and her eyes never left his. True to her word, she stopped after just a few seconds when she pulled away the bite marks on his wrist, healed almost instantly. A gift from her venom, she explained. They talked through the rest of the night. Suo asked about his life, and Junho found himself telling her everything. He told her about the academy and how people treated him there. He told her about Seo Jun and the daily humiliations he faced. He told her about his mother and his jobs and his dreams that felt impossible. In return, Suo shared her own story. She was from one of the most powerful vampire clans in Asia. Her life was filled with luxury, but also with loneliness. Everyone around her wanted something from her. They wanted her power or her family's favor or her hand in marriage for political gain. No one ever just wanted her. We are not so different, she said as dawn approached. You are invisible because you have nothing. I am invisible because I am only seen for what I have. Neither of us is seen for who we really are. Junho had never thought about it that way. But she was right. A sudden commotion outside interrupted them. Car doors slammed and voices shouted orders. Sua stood quickly and looked toward the door. "My guards," she said. "They found me." She moved toward the exit but then stopped. She turned back to Junho, and for a moment she just looked at him. Then she did something unexpected. She bowed to him. A vampire princess bowing to a human convenience store worker? Park Junho, she said with a small smile. "I will remember your name." Then she was gone, disappearing into the early morning light, surrounded by guards in black suits. Junho stood alone in the back room, wondering if any of it had been real. The next day at the academy, rumors spread like wildfire. A vampire princess was visiting, and she was apparently the daughter of the most powerful clan in the region. Students crowded the main hall, hoping to catch a glimpse of her. Junho tried to slip through the crowd unnoticed. He had almost made it to his classroom when he heard gasps behind him. He turned around, and there she was in the center of the hall, surrounded by the academy's elite. She was dressed in an elegant black dress, and her long hair flowed over her shoulders. She looked nothing like the wounded girl from the alley. She looked like a queen, and her eyes found his across the crowded hall, and she smiled. The main hall of Nightfall Academy had never been so crowded. Students pushed against each other, trying to get a better view of the vampire princess, who stood at the center of all the chaos. Teachers tried to maintain order, but even they were starstruck by her presence. Sua was known throughout the supernatural world. Her clan controlled half of Asia's vampire territories, and her father was said to be over 1,000 years old. An alliance with her family could change anyone's future forever. So every powerful student in the academy rushed forward, hoping to make an impression. Kang Seojun pushed his way to the front of the crowd. His designer clothes were perfect, and his hair was styled to look effortlessly handsome. He flashed his most charming smile as he approached Sua with confidence. "Princess Yoon," he said with a bow. "I am Kang Seojun of the Kang clan. It would be my honor to show you around our academy. I know every corner of this place, and I can make sure your visit is memorable." Behind him, his vampire friends nodded eagerly. They were already imagining the power they would gain if Seojun won the princess's favor. Sua looked at him with polite indifference. "Thank you for the offer, but I am looking for someone specific." Seo-chun's smile faltered slightly, but he recovered quickly. "Perhaps I can help you find them. I know everyone worth knowing here." "I doubt that," Sua replied coolly. More students stepped forward with gifts and compliments. A werewolf heir offered her rare flowers from his family's mountain territory. A witch presented her with a charm said to bring good fortune. A wealthy human student's father had sent an invitation to dinner at their estate. Sua declined them all with graceful but firm refusals. Her eyes kept scanning the crowd as if searching for someone who was not there. In the back of the hall, Junho was trying to disappear. He pressed himself against the wall and moved slowly toward the exit. His heart was racing and his palms were sweating. He had seen Sua smile at him, but that did not mean anything. Maybe she was just being polite. Maybe she did not actually remember him. He was almost at the door when the crowd suddenly went silent. Junho looked up and froze. Sua was walking directly toward him. The sea of students parted before her like she was Moses, and they were the Red Sea. Every eye in the hall followed her movement. Every breath was held in anticipation. She stopped right in front of Junho. "There you are," she said softly. "I have been looking for you." Junho could not speak. His voice had abandoned him completely. He just stared at her with wide eyes, wondering if this was some kind of dream. Seojun pushed through the crowd with an ugly expression on his face. "Princess Yoon, surely you are not here for this." "This is Park Junho. He is nobody, a scholarship student. A charity case." Sua did not even look at him. Her eyes stayed fixed on Junho's face. "I know exactly who he is," she said. Then she reached out and took Junho's hand in hers. The touch sent electricity through his entire body. Her fingers intertwined with his, like they belonged there. Gasps erupted throughout the hall. Students whispered frantically to each other. Some pulled out their phones to capture the moment. This could not be happening. A vampire princess holding hands with the lowest-ranked student in the academy. It was impossible as Seo Chun's face turned red with anger and humiliation. This must be some kind of joke. You cannot be serious about him. He's nothing. He has nothing. His blood is probably worthless, and his family has no power. Why would you ever choose him over me? Suah finally turned to look at Seo Jun. Her eyes flashed red for just a moment, and the temperature in the hall seemed to drop. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of 1,000 years of vampire nobility. "He's with me." 3 simple words, but they changed everything. The hall went completely silent. Even the teachers stopped breathing. Seo Jun looked like he had been slapped across the face. "I do not care about his blood or his family or his status," Suah continued. "I care about who he is as a person. When I was wounded and alone, he helped me without asking for anything in return. He showed me kindness when he had every reason to fear me. That is worth more than all your wealth and power combined." She squeezed Junho's hand and looked back at him with gentle eyes. "I hope you do not mind that I came to find you." Junho finally found his voice. "I thought maybe you had forgotten about me." Suah smiled. "I told you I would remember your name. I always keep my promises." She led him through the stunned crowd and out of the main hall. Students scrambled to get out of their way. No one dared to speak or block their path. In just a few minutes, the entire social structure of Nightfall Academy had been turned upside down. They found a quiet garden behind the academy building. Cherry blossom trees lined the path, and a small fountain bubbled peacefully in the center. Suah finally released Junho's hand and turned to face him. "I am sorry if I embarrassed you," she said. "But I could not stand there and watch people look down on you. Not after everything you did for me." "You did not have to do that," Junho said. "I am used to being treated that way. It does not bother me anymore." "It bothers me," Suah said firmly. "I have been watching how people here treat you. I arrived yesterday, but I did not reveal myself right away. I wanted to see what this place was really like." Her expression darkened. "What I saw made me angry. You work harder than anyone else here. You are smarter and kinder than all of them. But they treat you like garbage because you were not born into wealth." Junho did not know what to say. No one had ever defended him like this before. No one had ever seen him the way Suah seemed to see him. "Sajun will not forgive this," he said finally. "He will come after me now more than ever, and when you leave he will make my life impossible." Suah tilted her head curiously. "Who said anything about leaving? What do you mean?" "I mean I have decided to stay," Suah said. "I have enrolled at Nightfall Academy as a student. My father was not happy about it, but I convinced him. I will be attending classes here starting tomorrow." Junho stared at her in disbelief. "You are going to stay here, at this academy?" "Why?" Suah stepped closer to him, so close he could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. "Because I found something worth staying for." She paused, and a hint of uncertainty crossed her face. "Unless you do not want me here." "No," Junho said quickly. Yes. He took a breath to calm himself. "I want you here. I just do not understand why someone like you would choose someone like me." Suah smiled, and it was the most beautiful thing Junho had ever seen. "Maybe one day you will understand. For now, just know that I choose you. Not because of what you have or what you can give me, but because of who you are." She held out her hand to him again. "So Park Junho, will you let me stay by your side?" Junho looked at her hand and then at her face. He thought about all the trouble this would bring, all the enemies he would make, all the danger he would face. but none of that mattered. Because for the first time in his life someone had chosen him, he took her hand. "Yes," he said, "I will." Everything changed after that day in the main hall. Students who had ignored Junho for years suddenly wanted to be his friend. They smiled at him in the hallways and saved seats for him in class. They offered to help him with his homework and invited him to parties. Junho trusted none of it, knew these people had not changed. They were only interested in him because of Sua. If she ever left, they would go back to treating him like dirt. So he kept his distance and stayed polite, but never let anyone get too close. The only person he truly trusted was Sua. Herself true to her word, she had enrolled at the academy and attended classes like any other student. She sat next to Junho in every class and ate lunch with him in the cafeteria. She walked with him between buildings and waited for him after his shifts at the convenience store. At first their time together was awkward. Sua had lived her entire life in mansions surrounded by servants. She did not know how to use a vending machine or ride a public bus. She had never eaten instant noodles or played arcade games. The simple things that made up Junho's life were completely foreign to her, but she wanted to learn. "Teach me," she said one evening as they stood outside a small arcade near Junho's store. "I want to experience your world." So Junho taught her. He showed her how to play the claw machine and laughed when she got frustrated that the claw kept dropping the toys. He taught her how to make ramen on the small stove in the convenience store break room. He took her on bus rides through the city and showed her the view from his favorite rooftop. Sua experienced everything with wonder in her eyes. She had seen the world from palace windows and private jets, but she had never truly lived in it. Every new experience made her smile, and every smile made Junho's heart beat faster. "I did not know life could be like this," she said one night as they sat on a bench in a small park. "Everything in my world is scheduled and controlled. There is no room for surprises or adventures, but with you, every day feels different." "Is that a good thing?" Junho asked. "It is the best thing," Sua replied, and she leaned her head against his shoulder. But not everyone was happy about their growing closeness. Kang Leo Jun had not forgotten his humiliation in the main hall. Every time he saw Junho and Sua together, his eyes burned with hatred. He was used to getting everything he wanted, and losing to a poor human scholarship student was something he could not accept. He began to plan. Seo Jun called in favors from his family's connections. He bribed administrators and dug through Junho's records, looking for any weakness he could exploit. Finally, he found what he was looking for. One morning, Junho received a notice in his mailbox. His hands trembled as he read the words. The academy was reviewing his scholarship due to concerns about falsified documents in his application. He was required to appear before the disciplinary committee in 1 week. If found guilty, he would be expelled immediately. The accusation was a complete lie. Junho had filled out every form himself, and every document was authentic. But he knew that truth did not matter when you were fighting against someone with money and power. Seo Jun had probably paid people to create fake evidence against him. Junho did not tell Sua about the notice. He knew she would want to help, and he knew she could probably make the whole thing disappear with a single phone call. But he did not want that. He did not want to be someone she had to rescue. He wanted to be someone who could stand beside her as an equal, so he kept the secret and started preparing his defense alone. Minji found out anyway. She had seen the notice in his trash can and confronted him about it. "Are you crazy?" she said angrily. "This is obviously Seo Chun's doing. You need to tell Sua right now. I can handle this myself," Junho insisted. "No, you cannot," Minji shot back. "Seo Chun's family has lawyers and connections and money. You have nothing. They will crush you, and there will be nothing you can do about it." "Then I will be crushed," Junho said quietly. "But I will not be a burden to her. She did not choose me so I could hide behind her power. She chose me because she saw something in me worth choosing. I need to prove that she was right. Minji looked at him with frustration and sadness. You are the most stubborn person I have ever met. That night, Sojun found Junho alone in an empty classroom. Junho had been studying for his upcoming exams, trying to keep his grades perfect before the disciplinary hearing. He looked up when Sojun walked in with a smug smile on his face. Working hard? Sojun asked mockingly. I hope you are also working on your goodbye speech, because you will be gone from this academy very soon. Did you come here just to gloat? Junho asked calmly. I came to offer you a way out, Sojun said. He pulled an envelope from his jacket and tossed it on the desk in front of Junho. There is enough money in there to pay off your mother's medical bills and buy her a nice apartment. Take it and leave. Disappear from this academy and from Sua's life forever. Junho looked at the envelope but did not touch it. And if I refuse, then I will destroy you, Sojun said with cold certainty. I will make sure you are expelled in disgrace. I will ruin your reputation so no other school will accept you. I will make your life so miserable you will wish you had never been born. He leaned closer with a cruel smile. You do not belong in her world, Junho. You never did and you never will. Just take the money and save yourself the pain. For a long moment, Junho said nothing. He stared at the envelope, thinking about how much that money could help his mother. Thinking about how much easier it would be to just walk away, then he pushed the envelope back toward Sojun. No, he said. Simplizio-chan's smile faded. You are making a mistake. Maybe, Junho replied. But it is my mistake to make. I will not run away, and I will not be bought. If you want to destroy me, then go ahead and try. But I am not leaving. Seo-chan's eyes flashed with fury. He grabbed the envelope and shoved it back into his jacket. Fine. Remember that I gave you a chance. Everything that happens now is your own fault. He stormed out of the classroom, leaving Junho alone with his thoughts. 3 days later, Junho received another notice. His scholarship had been officially revoked. He had 24 hours to vacate his dormitory. He stared at the paper, feeling numb. He had known this was coming, but it still hurt. He started packing his few belongings into his old warm backpack. He would have to find somewhere else to live and figure out how to continue his education. Somehow, a knock came at his door. He opened it and found Sua standing there. Her eyes were red, and her expression was a mixture of hurt and anger. In her hand, she held a copy of his scholarship revocation notice. Why did you not tell me? She asked quietly. Junho could not meet her eyes. I did not want you to fight my battles for me. Is that what you think this is? Sua stepped into the room and closed the door behind her. You think I would see helping you as some kind of burden? I think I wanted to be someone you could rely on, Junho said. Not someone you had to save. Sua was quiet for a moment. Then she walked over and took his hands in hers. Junho, she said gently. Standing beside someone does not mean standing alone. It means letting them help you when you need it. That is not weakness. That is trust. She squeezed his hands tightly. Do you trust me? Junho finally looked at her. He saw the sincerity in her eyes and felt the warmth of her hands. All his pride and stubbornness melted away. Yes, he said. I trust you. Sua nodded firmly. Good. Then let me show you what happens when someone threatens the person I care about. The Academy Council chamber was packed with people. News had spread quickly that Princess Yoon, Sua, had called an emergency meeting regarding the scholarship student Park Junho. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. The council members sat at a long table at the front of the room. They were the most powerful figures at Nightfall Academy, including the headmaster and representatives from the major supernatural families. Among them sat So-chan's father, a stern vampire with cold eyes, who clearly expected his son to be praised rather than punished. Seo-jun himself stood to the side with a confident smirk on his face. He believed his family's power would protect him from any consequences. He believed Rong Sua entered the chamber with Junho at her side. Behind them came Minji and several members of Sua's personal guard carrying boxes of documents. The room fell silent as Sua walked to the center of the floor. "Thank you all for gathering on such short notice," Sua began. Her voice was calm, but carried the authority of her bloodline. "I am here to present evidence of corruption and abuse of power that has been allowed to flourish in this institution." The headmaster shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Princess Yoon, perhaps we should discuss this matter privately." "No," Sua said firmly. "This corruption has been hidden for too long. It ends today in front of everyone." She nodded to her guards, who began distributing documents to each council member. The papers contained bank records showing bribes paid to administrators, forged documents that had been planted in Junho's file, recorded conversations between Seo Jun and the officials he had corrupted. All of this evidence was gathered over the past 3 days, Sua explained. It proves beyond doubt that Kang Seo-jun conspired to have Park Junho's scholarship revoked through fraudulent means. He bribed officials to accept false evidence and pressured them to rush the decision before any proper investigation could take place. As Yeo-chun's confident expression finally cracked. He looked at his father for help, but even the elder Kang seemed shocked by the depth of the evidence against his son. "This is absurd," Seo-jun sputtered. "She's making this up to protect her pet human. The recordings are quite clear," Sua said coldly. "Would you like me to play them for everyone to hear?" Seo-chun's face went pale. He knew what was on those recordings. Every threat he had made and every bribe he had offered captured in perfect clarity. The headmaster examined the documents with a grave expression. "These are very serious accusations. If this evidence is authentic, then Kang Seo-jun has committed multiple violations of academy rules and possibly criminal laws as well. The evidence is authentic," Sua confirmed. "I had my family's legal team verify every document and recording. They are prepared to testify in any court if necessary." Seo-jun turned to his father desperately. "Father, do something. You cannot let them do this to me." But the elder Kang remained silent. He was a practical man, and he could see that his son had lost. Going against the Yoon clan over this matter would cost far more than it was worth. He closed his eyes and said nothing. The council deliberated for only a few minutes before reaching their decision. Kang Seo-jun is hereby expelled from Nightfall Academy effective immediately, the headmaster announced. The administrators who accepted bribes will be removed from their positions. All false charges against Park Junho are dismissed and his scholarship is fully restored with a formal apology from this institution. Cheers erupted from some parts of the room while shocked whispers came from others. Yeojun stood frozen, unable to believe what was happening. 2 guards stepped forward to escort him out of the chamber. As he passed Junho, he stopped and glared with pure hatred. "This is not over," he hissed. "I will make you pay for this. It is over," Junho replied calmly. "You lost. Accept it and move on." Seo-jun was dragged away, still cursing and threatening. His father followed with his head bowed in shame. In a matter of minutes, the most feared bully at Nightfall Academy had been reduced to nothing, but Junho was not finished. He stepped forward and addressed the council. "May I speak?" The headmaster nodded. "You have earned that right." Junho took a breath and looked around the crowded chamber. He saw faces he recognized from years of being ignored and mocked. He saw the students who had laughed when his books were knocked down and who had called him charity case behind his back. "What Seo-jun did to me was wrong," Junho began. "But he is not the only one responsible for how scholarship students are treated at this academy. We are looked down on every day. We are excluded and humiliated and made to feel worthless simply because we were not born into wealth." The room grew uncomfortable, but Junho continued. I do not want to be protected or feared because of my connection to Princess Yun. I want to earn my place here through my own efforts. But I also want things to change for the students who come after me. No one should have to suffer what I suffered just because of where they come from. He paused and met the eyes of the council members one by one. I am asking this academy to do better. Create real protections for scholarship students. Punish those who abuse their power. Make this a place where everyone can succeed based on their merits, not their bloodlines. Silence filled the chamber. Then slowly one council member began to clap. Others joined until the room was filled with applause. Even some of the wealthy students who had never given Junho a second thought looked at him with new respect. Su-ah watched from the side with pride shining in her eyes. This was why she had chosen him, not despite his humanity, but because of it. He had every reason to be bitter and vengeful, but instead he chose to fight for something bigger than himself. In the weeks that followed, the academy began to change. New policies were put in place to protect scholarship students. Teachers were trained to recognize and address bullying. A student council was formed that included representatives from every background, not just the wealthy and powerful Junho. Returned to his studies with his scholarship fully restored and his reputation transformed. Students who had once mocked him now asked for his help with their homework. Professors who had dismissed him now praised his work. He was no longer invisible, but the best part of each day was still the time he spent with Suahon. Evening they sat together on the academy rooftop, watching the sun set over Seoul. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, and the city lights were beginning to flicker on below them. I spoke with my father today, Sua said. He was impressed by what you said at the council meeting. He said you have the spirit of a leader. What did you say? Junho asked. I said I already knew that. Sua smiled. I also told him that I am officially declaring my bond with you to the clan. Junho's eyes widened. What does that mean? It means I'm telling everyone that you are important to me, Sua explained. It will cause some controversy. A vampire princess choosing a human? But I do not care what anyone thinks. Are you sure about this? Junho asked. I am still just a poor scholarship student. I cannot give you the things other suitors could. Sua turned to face him and took his hands in hers. You gave me something none of them ever could. You saw me as a person, not as a prize. You showed me kindness without expecting anything in return. You taught me what it means to really live. She squeezed his hands tightly. That is worth more than all the treasure in the world. Junho felt tears forming in his eyes, but he blinked them away. I still cannot believe you chose me. Believe it, Sua said softly. I would choose you again and again in every lifetime. She rested her head on his shoulder, and they watched the last rays of sunlight disappear behind the buildings. The city stretched out before them, full of possibilities and adventures waiting to happen. Sua, Junho said after a long, peaceful silence. Yes, thank you for finding me. She lifted her head and looked at him with those beautiful brown eyes that had seen centuries of history. Thank you for letting me stay. He put his arm around her and she leaned into him. For the first time in his life, Junho did not feel alone. He had someone who saw him for who he really was. Someone who chose him not for what he could give, but for who he was. And that was everything. Stars came out one by one above them as the city hummed with life below. Two people from different worlds sitting together on a rooftop, a human and a vampire. A nobody and a princess, but none of those labels mattered anymore. They were just Junho and Suahend. They had chosen each other.